said that. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight I am back with one of my favorites, Mr. Pat Cote. You know him as Pat the Burner and Peter Douche. So as always, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks, Joy. Appreciate being here, as always.
Absolutely. So here's the fun thing about Peter Douche. Now, or Peter Dow, if you guys aren't on Twitter, you may not realize the magnitude of the who Peter Dow is, but also who he was in 2016, and also the magnitude of what Peter Douche became. Peter Dow was actually responsible for many of the things that happened to Bernie supporters, as far as the bullying and things like that. He was behind it. He was worked with Podesta.
Tom Watson. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had their whole like Shillery clan, and so he did us dirty for years. However, he seems to have had some kind of epiphany or found new drugs. I'm not sure what it is, but even though we're all still kind of skeptical, he started like putting posts about like, we can't deny that Bernie has a real chance to win, and things like that. And you know, of course, the Hillary supporters are absolutely destroying him. But he's not backing down. And this has been going on for about 2 months. So, Pat, what was your first reaction when you start seeing him? Like, did somebody hack his account?
Right. So just to fill in any background that might be missing, David Brock, who is the epitome of dark souls in politics, hired Peter Dow along with Tom Watson to work for Hillary Men and other projects. But basically the whole point was to gaslight everyone about, you know, if you don't like Hillary, it's not that you have disagreements on policy, it's that you're sexist and racist. So I don't care what he says now, but who he was in 2016 was a guy that he fostered every negative narrative about Bernie as far as sex and race and the Bernie bro stuff. Although he didn't actually himself use the Bernie bro term, you know, he helped spread it. He was a propagandist for David Brock, for Hillary by extension through David Brock. So anyways, as far as hearing it, I mean, I was skeptical along the way. I'm still skeptical. I think once you're a paid propagandist, you should never be free from the skepticism. I mean, you know, if you're paid to lie for a living, what makes you a valid person to listen to now? But there's value in his transformation, because at the end of the day, half his audience, at least, are the people that believed his stuff before. They are the centrist Hillary supporting audience. So there's a tremendous value in a guy like him coming out and saying, look, I went too far. This is this is nonsense. I mean, he's even coming out now against the leadership in the party, you know? So personally, I mean, I had a few interactions. I said, hey, if you're legit, you know, you should unblock me. I don't even remember exactly what I said, but basically he did unblock me and commented a few times. We had an actual discourse back and forth. Although the last thing I said, because he's done a few interviews since then, and my critique of his interviews, he was on TYT. He was on with Nomiki. He was on with Nomiki Konst. He was on with Mike Figueroa. I will never pronounce his last name right.
Figueredo.
Hey, Figueredo. But my critique of all those interviews is in all of them, he escapes criticism by saying, essentially, he's portraying himself as not working for Hillary in that period during that. And nobody has put his feet to the fire on his relationship with with David Brock and with Tom Watson. And so he acts like he was a free agent and all that, which I think is a little, it's unfair to let him take a pass on that.
Yes.
I can see the value in what he's doing, but he shouldn't get a pass on that. So anyway, I did question him about that. And I said, so what's your take on the fact that you worked with Tom Watson and Hillary, man? And that was the last of our conversation. We had a few things back and forth, then he tapped out then. So.
But he didn't block you.
He didn't block me. And if I have to guess, I feel like he's either had an actual epiphany, feels guilty about his role in 2016, has changed his tune somewhat, or the alternative is that he's being paid now to promote some other progressive.
Or on that note, perhaps he was being paid by Hillary last time, so he felt compelled to say and do certain things. Now he's not getting the paycheck from her, so he can say how he really feels.
Right, and that's what it by all measures appears to be right now. But should he ever switch back? So my role, I parodied him. I created an account and I picked him because he was the most obvious disingenuous soul on Twitter. I mean, it was pretty clear, but he had a huge following, and people in the still withering crowd, the still with her people, they worship the guy. He was their I don't know. I don't even know what to call it, but they looked to him they were on, like, if you wanted to find the people that thought Bernie was a monster, you would go to his timeline.
Absolutely. And when he first started coming out with that stuff, and a lot of the Bernie supporters were coming on my page saying, holy shit, Peter Dowd just unblocked me. He's had me blocked for 2 years. Did someone ask him what's going on? And it was like person after person, holy shit, he unblocked me too. And I've gone hard at him many times, but he, knock on wood, he hasn't blocked me. I just joined Twitter 5 months ago. So, but it's interesting because he is not just saying things passively, like he is going hard. He said yesterday, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer need to step down. Like, he straight up said they should lose their job.
Right. And I feel like that's why he's earned a little more trust. I mean, trust is like, he's never going to have trust, but that's why we can believe his transformation a little more, I think. But so at the end of the day, my skeptical me thought, okay, if he's doing this, if you look at it through the guise of, through the lens of, this guy is a propagandist. If you were to be continuing as a propagandist, and this is not to be believed, what scenarios fit that? So my first prediction was that he would be shilling for someone like Elizabeth Warren, right? And now he is out there and he's like, I'm progressive. I'm not going to favor a candidate, but I'm leaning towards Warren. So he's put a lot of this Warren stuff out there. So, we need to be a little skeptical because he's earned it through his career. But I don't want to. So myself, as the parody account, I decided to back off him because, look, I don't want to go after someone saying the right things now, even if it's bullshit. I mean, I can come back and be Peter Douche tomorrow if his credibility falls apart. So I'm giving him a pass. I'm believing him for now. But, you know, progressives won 2016. We won the battle of ideas. So if Peter Dow is going to be a propagandist, he can't be a centrist propagandist. There's no such thing anymore. Nobody believes them. You know?
Right. Absolutely. And,
So.
you know, at first, you know, well, I will never forgive him. I won't. Like, I just won't. I mean, he cost us votes. He cost us tears. He
Right.
really fucked a lot of us up. So I will not forgive him. However, we have to be the type of movement that if he does, you know, we have to be welcoming. Like, I was talking to a girl the other day I was diehard Hillary. I didn't hate Bernie, but I just really wanted Hillary. And now I don't know what I was thinking. I love Bernie so much. And it's like, we welcome you. You know what I mean? Like, better late than never.
Right. And his transformation, I mean, if you believe it, it sort of is what we want his followers, we want the Hillary people to come around to, is that they went, you know, people went too far. It was a political battle. We butted heads. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're a progressive and if you want to see change in the party, we want people to think like us, and that it's the progressive ideas that are going to push forward the change that are going to actually lead to being electable and beating Trump. Mm-hmm. So he's saying that stuff. So I don't want to attack him for that. That's great.
Right. And the fact that, I mean, if you guys go on Twitter, just go to Peter Dow's account, not even just for his posts, but just look at the comment sections. I mean, that dude is getting ripped a new asshole like 24/7. Like, way worse than we ever were to him. I mean, the Hillary supporters are like, "You're psycho. How could you support Bernie? Oh my fucking God. I hope you die." Like, they're just all nuts.
Well, he's a creature of literally the people he created. I mean, yeah. he created that. And so his own followers are ripping him up. And, you know, he gets to see his own extremism.
He made this one post that he said, you know, this is incredible to me that Bernie supporters who have hated me for 4 years have been so much more kind and understanding to me than Hillary supporters, even though I was with them for years. So I think a lot of parts of him really is starting to get it. Like, holy shit. Like, maybe, you know, I was being a total asshole. But like I said, I'll never forgive him.
Right.
But I think, you know, I am glad to see that, that's happening. And I always scroll through the thread to make sure that he doesn't kind of rationalize it further down, but he keeps going. Like, he doesn't take it back or try to rationalize anything he says. He's talking negatively about the Dems as a whole, which I never thought. You know what I mean? So
right.
he has. What's that?
The danger is, I mean, skeptical me sees him still pushing the don't criticize Democrats thing. So he himself is criticizing the establishment, but he's purveying the message of don't criticize any Democrat, as in, you know, we need to beat Trump at any cost. It's all the stuff we've heard for a long time. But hypothetically, say he's hired by the Warren campaign or by people that want to elevate Warren, not necessarily to win, but to take votes away from Bernie.
Right.
How are you going to elevate Elizabeth Warren? You're going to attack the establishment a little bit. You're going to say, don't criticize other candidates. Because, you know, ultimately, if you're trying to elevate Warren and you're not working on Warren's campaign, you're working for Kamala in the end game, but you're elevating Warren so that Kamala can come in here and it's going to split the progressive vote between Warren and Bernie. that's what you would do. You would attack the establishment. You would say progressive things. You would say, hey, don't go after Bernie. I'm not against him. I kind of always believed in him, but I just think Warren's the female version, so you would do exactly what he's doing in that scenario. So if you look at his associations in his past with David Brock and creating the sexist Bernie narrative, it fits perfectly. But at the end of the day, Warren's not going to win it. It's not going to elevate Warren to a level that hurts Bernie, I hope.
Okay, I don't want to be naive because people have a huge Warren boner like the past 2 weeks.
So
and I don't get it.
Look, he's ultimately going to pivot probably to that. So, I look at the greater good. The greater good is still, look, if he gets people believing progressive ideas, and either he's doing it out of kindness or he's doing it out of trying to elevate Warren to hurt Bernie, whatever his motivation, I don't see it hurting us. He's not an effective, he's never been an effective propagandist. When you're so transparent, it's not effective. But anyway, I waffle back and forth. I want to give him a pass, and he should get a pass, and I appreciate where he's at now. I just want people to be guarded because, none of us are following him. We're not going to fall into like, oh, Peter Dow's great, let's listen to Peter Dow. But his crew is going to. People that followed him before and some people that are on board could be leveraged towards Warren in that effort. So,
well, your points are incredibly valid because when Warren announced that January, so like 5 months ago, she met with Hillary. She also hired Hillary's staff for her campaign. So, that being said, it's feasible.
Yeah. And Warren's not the worst progressive, but if you're in
progressive.
No, she's borderline.
She's not.
Right. And it's trust. On paper, she's progressive-ish and, but she's waffled on Medicare for all. She's, she never stood up for no DAPL and all these progressive causes.
Trump's $717 billion war budget, is totally accepting of taking corporate money, praises Israel. I could go on. She's not progressive, and I cannot stand her. I cannot stand how she's stealing so many of Bernie's ideas, and people are like, oh my God, she's amazing. It's like, where do you think she got this shit? Like, where do you think she got this stuff?
Well, if you watch CNN and MSNBC, they're trying to create a narrative that the narrative is that Warren has missed policy, and because of sexism, she's not getting the coverage of the other male candidates. Mm-hmm. Now, as with all these things, there's truth to that, but at the same time, that's not why she's not being, she's not. It's not sexism that makes progressives not trust her. Progressives were around in 2016. We have a million reasons not to trust her, aside from just flat policy on some things. But, when you don't back the candidate who has a chance of winning, when you could put him over the top in your state, who represents everything you've said over the last decade in politics. She hasn't even been, has she been in politics a decade? Yeah, probably. Maybe two, but
after she was a Republican,
right. So, she lost her credibility with the left, and that's just never coming back. And the center doesn't like her either. So she's in a bad spot. But so that tells you, when you see CNN and MSNBC trying to elevate Warren, well, the center doesn't like her either. So you got to look beyond, like, what's the motivation for that? And the motivation is to chop into Bernie. That's it.
Right. Absolutely. And you know, I try to think about like candidates and how they'd be on the debate stage with Trump. She would get destroyed. Trump would fucking destroy Warren. Like she
Yeah.
gave in to him. She bowed down. She said, "Okay, you're bullying me to do this. Okay, I'm going to do that." That's not how you, I mean, that shows no backbone. She should have never done that. She should have said, "Look, I know who I am. I know what my family has taught me. I don't have to prove you shit." But
Yeah,
she did it and looked like a freaking idiot.
And that all that stuff matters. So her political instincts are terrible.
They're awful.
So let's say hypothetically you believe Warren is a great person, a great progressive, whatever. Her instincts in 2016 were to not back Bernie. And why did she not back Bernie? Everybody knows pretty much it was hoping to get the VP slot for Hillary, right? So she, you know, that didn't work out for her. So that was a bad calculation.
Bernie might have given her, which is the irony.
Right. He would have for sure in 2016.
And at least put her in his cabinet.
Yeah. Her stock would be much higher right now. But instead, she gambled on Hillary, which ultimately Hillary won as she was thinking, and then didn't get the VP nod, and then lost her credibility with progressives. So you look at that's her instinct. Then her other instinct is, let's run as sort of a centrist person that's not for Medicare for all. I mean, a progressive person that's not for Medicare for all, and her like you were saying with Trump, you know, the engagement with Trump, her instinct is to release these DNA results, you know, awful. Her instinct following AOC is to do I'm announcing my campaign over a beer, this totally unstaged moment where I'm gonna, well, let's just drink a beer. I mean, that stuff matters, and she's bad at it. She's not natural. It's not, people see through it, and her history. So anyway, back what I was going to say is that these things matter. How people engage Trump, like if the electorate is basing their pick, as the mainstream media wants you to think, on just purely beating Trump, you need to look at how she's engaged with Trump. No good. So what people are missing is, remember Biden's engagement with Trump? Biden's engagement with Trump was, let's go fight out behind the bleachers, and everybody puked. Like, we don't want to see these old people fighting about behind the bleachers. And as a Democrat, the last thing we want is our Democrat caving to this low-level basis punch someone behind the bleachers thing. And Trump looked better from that engagement.
Yes. Now, though, because Trump is so hated, I don't know that Biden would get poor reception for that.
Yeah, but the one thing you know is that Biden is not good at those engagements. His instinct is bad. You know, everybody knows he's a gaffe factory. Everyone who's followed his career, you know, who actually has researched him a little bit, knows that he says something dumb every day. And there's no scenario where Trump and him don't go back and forth and Biden doesn't lose the bigger picture. I mean, he won't lose it to us. We won't say, Democrats won't say, "Wow, that was awful, Joe, you lost to Trump." But Trump is going to score more with his base than Biden ever does.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing about Biden, did you hear? I posted it. A gentleman posted, I forget where he wrote a story from, but he posted that he went to a Biden rally and Biden was coming out, and his staff literally body blocked him from asking any questions. Literally body blocked him. And right. He's like, "Joe, can I ask you, a question?" And he just turned and walked away. And then when he posted that, 3 other journalists posted, holy shit, that's happened to me too. And not just at that rally, but this was 4 separate events that his people body blocked any questions, and then took pictures of the journalists who were wanted to ask the questions. So they know they don't want him to say shit. And then the speech he gave last week, he was stammering and slurring. Did you see that? I don't know what the hell was up with that.
All of his interviews so far, he has had sort of a lispy slur, something. I don't know what you want to call it, but look, take that part aside. Right? Just pretend that doesn't exist. Just look at what he said. Look at his words. He doesn't want to talk about Medicare for all. He doesn't want to talk about policy. He doesn't want to get into any of these areas. He doesn't have time for that. They're going to try to run a controlled campaign because they know there's no scenario where he talks to the public and takes open questions and survives. So, I mean, I don't think they ever really wanted to be stuck with Joe, but I think right now they realize, I mean, it's all fluid, so we'll see. But I think they're going to try to make Joe work, which they weren't trying to do a month ago.
Yeah.
But they've realized that Kamala has no legs. They're going to reboot Kamala, and Kamala ultimately is who I think the establishment is behind. I think they know that Joe.
I think it's Buttigieg.
I mean, I think Buttigieg is in the same, like, let's take a chunk away from Bernie. Let's see if we can sell him as a progressive. Let's, try to create something there that, the more they elevate anyone not Bernie is good for them. That's the whole thing. But I don't see Black communities ever taking to Buttigieg. I mean,
he's so racist. I mean, like, he's responsible for gentrification in South Bend. Like, this guy was trying to challenge me on it like an hour ago on Twitter, and he's like, I want some backup. I need receipts for that. And I'm like, okay, here. I put like 5 articles. I put the interview I did with the woman running for his position, who is a Black woman. I was like, you may want to believe the people who actually live there, who are people of color.
Right. But so I always look at, okay, let's say that narrative is overhyped or something, like let's say he's not racist. Let's say he's a smart intellectual guy who's just made let's take him on his own word, right? By his own words, he made a lot of mistakes in all these areas and learned from them, right? And he has some reaching out to do with the Black community and yada, yada. Well, he's only been a mayor for a while. It's not like he hasn't done anything beyond being a mayor. And everything he's being critiqued about as a mayor are big mistakes that he was really wrong on. And every time it's about not reaching out to the people involved. So every time he came at it from a neoliberal perspective of corporatist, and then, it turns out we screwed over the Black community. It turns out we this. So it's a mistake, and he has an intellectual answer that makes sense. And you can say, I get, let's say I think he's acting in good faith and he's a good mayor, and he came in here with the right heart, but he made the mistake, and then he made the mistake, and then he made the mistake. Well, all he's done has been mayor and made these mistakes. He hasn't proven he can exist in this world without making those big mistakes yet. There's no reason to elevate a mayor who has made these big mistakes. Even if you think he's a good guy, he hasn't shown that he's not naive. Like he's come into all these things, and his excuse for every mistake is naivety.
Right.
So
absolutely.
You're not ready to be president. You're not ready to take on the people within your party. And every signal from him dealing with the party is that he's going to embrace the people who tell him Medicare for all is too expensive, or we can't do that, or, he's going to be corrupted. Even if you think he's good now, which good, whatever. But even if you think his heart's in the right place and he's a smart guy, that doesn't mean he's not. That doesn't mean he's ready to be president. He's not. He's like a mile away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I found out today that I was so disgusted. Yesterday it came out, someone on Bernie's staff stated that his, most of you guys know, Bernie's the first and only campaign that has ever gone union. So that's huge, huge. So then someone from Bernie's campaign yesterday posted that they are paying interns $20 an hour with full benefits, healthcare, vacation, everything. 20 an hour. This is interns. These aren't even like, staff, or how you want to say. Okay, so that comes out and I'm like, oh my God, that's freaking, nobody else can say that. Also in 2016, Bernie was the only candidate who paid his interns. Now that goes for Republicans and Democrats. He was the only one that paid, and it was $15 an hour. Now, so I digress. But so somebody in the comments posted an article that states that Pete Buttigieg does not give even his employees, not just interns, even his employees, does not give them health care. He will give them a stipend. Now, is it going to be for the whole amount? No. It's just going to be, you get, say, I don't know the dollar amount, but you get 200, whatever it is. It's not going to, he's not going to look at the medical bills and be like, I'm going to reimburse you. And the reason why he's doing that is because then he doesn't have to pay the taxes and things like that. He's just saying, you guys get your own health care. That is so immoral.
When I hear Buttigieg speak, like, I kind of feel like he's coming from an honest place. I mean, I don't agree with him, but that's my take on him, is that he feels like, to me, a guy that I know in life who's got some super Republican parents. So he's bought into this stuff. Like, he literally says, well, free college is going to hurt it's going to hurt regular people who can't go to college, because like, these are Republican talking points, and I feel like if someone did some research, I bet both his parents are Republicans, because he's not a progressive, he's like he's a pseudo progressive, but I think he's like, he deeply believes a lot of Republican ideals. Like, I don't think he's necessarily like a corrupted, shitty Democrat. I think he comes from a naive, he's trying to overturn this Republican upbringing, is my vibe on him all the time. I could be dead wrong. I don't know, but he's the wrong guy, period, anyway. So whether I get him right or not, I don't really care. I mean,
he terrifies me. Like, he has war lust. He really does. Like, his posts just give me goosebumps. He loves war. He loves it.
And he's one of those guys that could, he's very Obama in his words.
And he has his poster right behind him. I shouldn't if my day right behind me, but at least mine's good.
I got a Bernie shirt on, so I have a Bernie shrine over the other way. But anyway. I worry about him. I mean, taking a little bit, but I think enough people see through him. And look, if he had a chance of, I don't see him winning over many progressives, but I don't. His just personal appeal to Black communities is not there. I mean, based on his record, his rhetoric, who he is, he just doesn't come across as somebody that gets other people that don't, you know, I don't see him relating to many people outside of, he seems too bougie in a lot of ways, you know.
Pete Bougie-Jej. I dig it.
Bougie-Jej. That should be the parody.
You know, he doesn't have policies. He says that we focus too much on policies. It's not like it's, you know, a big job or anything. So he says he doesn't want to bog people down with minutia. That's his word.
They're trying that. They're trying that with Pete. They're trying that with Biden. You know, there's a couple articles came out about how Kamala, you know, maybe she should go back to being more centrist, because, you know, they're making this argument that people should just drop the left stuff. You know, that's what they're telling us right now.
Yeah, that article was like, you don't have to be Bernie. Who the hell do we really think they are? I mean, come on now. Seriously.
Right. It should say you don't have to pretend to be Bernie, but you do have to pretend to be Bernie, and they all know it, you know.
Yeah. We see, the beautiful thing about progressives is we actually research stuff. And when somebody will say, oh, you Bernie bro, we're like, here's an article, here's a video, here's 3 essays, here's voting records. Like, we're just like, bam, 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 bam. But, you know, they have like insults. That's it. So it gets frustrating. Today, Biden came out with another gem, and Bernie was all up on it. It was great. Biden said he does not support the Green New Deal. And he states that we have to essentially do a compromise of 50-50.
Yeah, so that goes to Beto's bullshit too. It's like, so you either believe climate change scientists or you don't. There's no middle ground on this. I mean, you either think there's 12 years to fix climate change, you know, to do something about it before it's irreversible, or you don't. So you can't take 12 and compromise it out to 50 or 30 years. You know, you got to act now. So that just tells you where he's at. And you got to look at it like anyone coming into power from the left, considering we have a whole institution run by the corporations and oil companies and everybody that benefits from polluting and not doing anything about climate change. Well, if your position is starting where Biden is and you compromise from that, I mean, you're compromising from compromising from compromising. Mm-hmm. We're fucked. And anyone, but it's beautiful that he makes that argument, because so many people are informed about climate change now. Like, you know, that you can't make that argument and think and have people, you know, progressives or even centrists, you know, people care about this stuff. It's not like this is some, you know, which football team.
Because when I'm seeing these people on Twitter saying, oh, I care about so much about the environment, and then they have, you know, Biden on their picture, who literally has oil company reps on his campaign team, and, you know, says shit like that. I'm like, okay, you need to learn about your candidate, because no, you don't care about the environment if you are supporting him. It's such incredible cognitive dissonance. It's just rampant.
And I think the thing is that people, the general public that doesn't follow politics very closely, is not really tuned into this stuff yet. They're just starting to sort of wet their lips on it. Like, I tabled a few weeks ago for a Bernie event, and people would come up and I'm like, is Bernie running? You know, like, people, like, we're in a world that other people aren't, you know. I mean, look, if you care about the country, hopefully you're tuned in a little bit, but a year away from the election, people aren't tuned in. So in 7 weeks, we have the first debate. So imagine Bernie and Biden on the debate stage. I mean, look, everyone's going to cut into Biden. All these people, you know, if there was a grand conspiracy, a seriously grand conspiracy, where it was Biden and everyone else against Bernie, and they were all on each other's team, on the same team, they could take out Bernie. but there isn't a grand conspiracy. There's like the DNC wants to do their thing, and there's the oligarchs and the corporations backing these fuckers that want to do this thing. But Kamala wants to be president. Buttigieg wants to elevate his stock. All these people they're gonna go after Biden too. They can't take a position that's on side of Bernie because that's where the public is, and then have Biden is not going to look good through all this. That's why they're trying to create this narrative that all these candidates should back away from the progressive ideas, because they want to make it so that by the time they get to the debate stage, Bernie is the radical like he used to be. But it's not going to work. I mean, Biden is going to look like the centrist he is. He's going to be the guy that shits on millennials. He's going to be the guy that's backed by corporations, taking all this dirty money. He's going to be the guy that voted for the crime bill. You can't erase that. You can't erase all that shit that Biden has done. So, it's good that we're crafting the narrative now and fighting against all their bullshit, but the public isn't tuned into the stuff we're saying. The public isn't on Twitter. The public is watching C-SPAN and waiting to hear the pundits talk.
Yeah.
I mean, not C-SPAN. They're not watching C-SPAN. They're CNN. Yeah.
They, one of I keep thinking I can't find Biden any more egregious, but then I wake up the next day. He said the other day, he was asked about healthcare, and he said, I haven't had time to work on a policy. So one of the biggest issues this time is Medicare for all. That's a lot of our if you don't support it, you don't get our vote. It's almost like a litmus test or what have you.
It should be.
And he's saying he hasn't had time to come up with a healthcare plan. So I posted on Twitter, okay, so you have been flaunting that you were running for 4 years. You've been retired. You've
had 8 years to come up with something.
Time. And I said, here's Bernie, who's already been across the country, done over 20 something rallies, 3 town halls, written articles, countless interviews. This dude does not stop, and he's still senator, but yet he's still on, Senate floor passing bills all the time. He's a freaking machine. So no, I don't want to hear you haven't had time. That's bullshit. It means you don't care.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, it's that he doesn't care. I mean, it's wanting to win without taking a stance. They want to not take a position. So all these people are trying to carve out a position that is a non-position that is worded the best way. So what they're trying to come up with is some way to say Joe Biden supports Medicare for all is the goal, but not now, in a way that wins over progressives. It's the Beto response of, I support Medicare for America or Medicare, whatever the shit you want to add to it. But ultimately, it's a pathway to Medicare for all. So I support Medicare for all. But, if you're supporting something that's 10 pieces of legislation away, it's bullshit. You can't support the little piddly first step that send us all a coupon for $1 off of our prescription drugs or something,
Yeah, incrementalism is kind of killing people. So settling is why we're here. This is why we are in this situation, because people settle for garbage candidates. You're right, Fran. Bernie is our president. Hell yeah. You're right. Bernie is the choice. Period. As someone with medical needs, he's the only person I trust with Medicare for all. The only person. he's fought for it for decades. He's written the legislation. He's the one that brought it to America and made it a household term. He taught millions of people about it who knew nothing of it. And look at how far we've come since he brought that to the main stage a few years ago. I mean, it's blown up. Millions of people want it now. So he's the only person I trust who can do that.
And I think that's the argument that's going to be made in the debates. And that's, if you watch Bernie's speeches now, I mean, that's what he's doing. He's claiming it, which he should. And in that, you know, 4 years ago or 2 years ago, nobody was talking about Fight for 15. No one's talking about Medicare for all. None of this shit. You know, it was like, if Bernie didn't run, what would we be talking about right now? All the senators should be talking about, you know, it'd be nice to raise the minimum wage to $11, or, you know, $10.50 would be nice as a national minimum wage, you know.
Hillary wanted 12. Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And what would she even have wanted 12 if Bernie didn't want 15? I mean,
probably not.
Yeah.
And then when New York went to 15, she got on stage.
She claimed it.
Yeah. She got on stage and was like, I'm so happy for the people of New York. Ugh. So some people, and like the thought of this, like seriously makes me just want to cry in the fetal position and smash whatever's around me. Some people are saying that they fear Biden may bring in Hillary as a VP or something. Yeah. I don't think so, but if I'm moving to Vermont, separating Vermont from the contiguous United States and making Bernie my freaking president. That's it. I'm done.
I mean, that would be the worst thing he could do. If there's no world where he would do that. I'm sorry. I have to disagree with that. If he got the nomination, he's not going to alienate everyone that hated Hillary. He's not going to. It's because he's appealing to Republicans. If he gets a nomination, it's because he's appealing to Republicans, you know, and independents and people in the Rust Belt that, you know, didn't like Hillary. That's, you know, he's going to get the people that didn't like Hillary, is why Biden, that's his appeal. So why would you add her to the ticket? So no.
That's a good point. That is a good point. I think, that's what I wanted to tell you, and then I sidetracked. Tulsi put out something that I may have sent it to you or tagged you. I'm sure a lot of my viewers know that candidates need 65,000 individual donations in order to qualify to get on the debate stage. So Tulsi, it took quite some time, but she met it. Then she posted 2 days ago that now, because since yesterday, there's 23 freaking people running on the Dem side, they are likely going to bump it up to 100,000. Tulsi has 69,000. All these people need to, better safe than sorry, get up to 100,000 individual donations by June 15th. So you're talking a month.
A month.
So the chances, I mean, like literally the day they announced this, Julian Castro got his 65. The day it was announced. And then they're like, oops, sorry.
Castro.
So now it's my understanding at this point, there are 10 who qualify for the 65,000. So if those are the only 10, will they need to go to the 100,000? I don't believe so. But if more than 10.
I need to look at the details, because I saw something where you could qualify from the 65,000, or you could qualify from getting 1% in 3 major polls. I think it was all it took is 1% in 3 major polls. And what I saw said that if they have over 20 candidates, then they're going to start ranking people on both. Do you have over 1%
Right.
and 65,000? So
Right.
I don't know how they're going to determine it, but I mean, you could bet they're going to probably try to tweak it if they can tweak it around the edges and get Tulsi off the debate stage. Whatever keeps Mike Gravel off the debate stage is going to be the
Gravel is there. Here's the thing that I realized about Gravel at like 3 a.m. the other day, and I was like, fuck, and I just ran to Twitter. What I realized about Gravel is they are typically, what they do in the debates is they put people who poll the highest together and poll the least together. So let's say there's 23 candidates and it's split into 2 nights. Well, right. Gravel is polling at like 3%. He's not going to be with Biden. So that makes me very sad because I want to see that shit. Like, I mean, party at my house with popcorn, beer, everything. That would be epic.
Yeah, I mean, that's worth funding. That would be worth funding for all of us.
Yeah. So it's nothing is certain, unfortunately. It really depends on, like some of the people, I don't even remember their names. It's like, it's so pointless that they're even in it. I just was reminded today, Cory Booker's running. I haven't thought of that jackass in like a month.
I mean, that's glorious. So yeah, I used to, tweet about all these guys jumping in the race. And, I mean, we all collectively slammed Cory over the last year so hard that I don't think he can come back. And I think we should all celebrate that victory a little bit. Because he's a terrible person to be in politics. I mean, he's not, they're worse people, of course, but he sucks. He's the peak neoliberal, guy. I mean, anyway, but the point is, like, with all these newcomers and the people that are doing badly, I don't even want to make fun of them anymore. I don't want to draw any more attention to them. I mean, they're getting no attention, and that's fine because we don't want them to get attention. What's the point? I mean, maybe we should all elevate Cory Booker so that he takes some votes away from Biden. I mean, I don't know. Strategically, maybe there'll be a time where that makes sense.
I just want them to start dropping. Like, I feel like Gillibrand's at 1%. She's always been at 1%. I think her ass is going to drop out. She's going to endorse Kamala. Kamala's going to get like somewhat back in the spotlight again. And then like, I don't know. It's like freaking, there's like a million different equations.
There are, but I think it's still all, I mean, my gut says it's all for Kamala, but the more spotlight she gets, the worse she is. Like, her numbers went up because she survived over maybe a month or so where she was out of the public spotlight, but they were talking about her on TV, and that raised her numbers. I mean, it's just pundit propaganda. When she gets in front of the cameras and talks to people don't like her. She's scripted. She's cautious. She's hedging herself. She's not authentic, and it rings to everybody that sees her. And her record's terrible. But just looking at the population that doesn't really follow policy, she doesn't read as an honest person.
No, not at all. She doesn't answer questions well at all. If you watch her, she gets very nervous. She fumbles. It takes her a minute to really think about things. And then when she says something, it's not accurate or it's just not good. I don't even think, well, first of all, she doesn't even have really experience in politics, except being a senator for the second time. Why? It's like so many of these people aren't qualified. Who you think, a president should be. Yang never held politics, never held an office a day in his life. Marianne Williamson, never in politics a day in her life. Buttigieg, a mayor for 2 terms in a town. You know, these
Yeah,
are
but
people like Beto lost, you know,
right.
and he is running. It's why are they not being held to a higher standard? Like, if you're going to run, I mean, shit, Bernie was mayor, Senate, House, Congress. I mean, dude's been doing this shit for decades.
Yeah.
So he understands how each section works.
Yeah. And it's fine if you don't, you know, I mean, it'd be great. Someone can come from outside of politics. I mean, you know, more power to you. It doesn't, you don't have to be a career politician necessarily, but you have to get the struggles people are going through, and people have to believe you. Um, you know, I mean, when I think of Kamala, I always feel like every time she says something, I feel like she doesn't know much about it. I feel like she was handed a card like in some high school class of like, you're debating this issue, and here are some points, and now go debate. Like it's not from the heart, you know. But so, you know, she checks some boxes for people, but that doesn't win elections, you know. And that's the weirdest thing to me about Biden being elevated is, what box does Biden check? I mean, he doesn't check,
Obama
you know,
nostalgia.
but
That's it.
he doesn't check anything they've been talking about forever, you know, youth, people of color,
Women.
progressives, you know, they talk about progressives, women, uh, none of that. He doesn't check any of those boxes. So what's his path to victory? You know, it's not there really. It's just, can they hang on with this guy and gaslight people to forget everything they've been fighting for the last few years? And it's just not going to happen. I mean, I don't see it happening. I don't see any world where he hangs on.
What do you think about the possibility of Biden staying in for a bit and then giving his delegates to Kamala? I think that's
I
kind of
think,
feasible.
well, so as I understand it, the delegates themselves do what they want, right? They're not controlled by the candidate, right?
No, not super delegates.
No, but the
Delegates.
actual delegates themselves aren't like gifted. You know, Biden doesn't can't own them, does he? I mean,
When you win them, they're yours and you can give them to someone
okay,
else.
so until the second vote at the convention, they're locked into whatever Biden wants to do with them, is what you're saying?
I
Well,
believe
so
so. Yes.
okay, yeah.
Well, no, that can't be right because, like, let's say Pennsylvania votes today and Biden gets 5 delegates and Kamala gets 4. If Biden says tomorrow, I'm going to drop, I want to give my 5 to Kamala's 4, and now she has 9.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure. I mean, we should find out on that. I know.
Yeah, I'll have to look deeper into
So
it. That's how it was explained to me.
so I know all pledged delegates on the second ballot are free. That much I know. So if you get to the convention and you have people that haven't dropped out of their campaign, so I'm not sure exactly what happens when you drop out of your campaign. But if your campaign is active, even if it's suspended, but it's still active at the convention, on the second ballot, the delegates themselves decide what they want to do. So
Right.
if there's a 3-way split and you got Kamala, Biden, and Bernie, all those Biden delegates could go to Kamala, all the Kamala ones can go to Biden. So they can basically double up then, but it's still up to the delegates themselves what to do then. So that's the thing that I think some people are missing is when they have this conversation about superdelegates deciding it on the second ballot, it doesn't even have to be the superdelegates. Because if there's a 3-way split, even though Bernie came in with the most, you need 50 plus 1 vote. And I think it's 1969 or something. There's some weird number that just happened to work out like 1969. So I could remember it, but I'm probably wrong anyway. Anyway, the point is, if Kamala gives all her votes to Biden or vice versa, and it's enough to get over Bernie's majority, then they can act like, Superdelegates never decided, and they're right. I mean, the system decided it, and it's a screwed up system. But that's how if there's a three-way split at the convention, it's not necessarily going to be this argument about superdelegates overruling the people, because they've got that the pledged delegates themselves voted.
Right. A lot of people still swear that Tulsi and Bernie are working together and that she'll drop and give him her delegates. I do not see that. I just don't. I see them as running against each other. What's your take?
I mean, my honest take is that I don't think she's going to get many delegates. So it's kind of,
I don't either.
I think she's either going to be, I think she's either in it to help Bernie, or I don't see her as a threat to Bernie. She hasn't been elevated enough to take away from Bernie. She's not, you need 15% of the vote to get a delegate in the new rules. Maybe it was the old rules too, but I know you need 15% now. So
right.
Where's, maybe in a couple states she could get 15%, but it's not going to be enough to really factor into this thing. So when people worry about Tulsi, I don't worry about Tulsi.
I don't worry about her necessarily, but it does frustrate me that, I mean, essentially, since they are competing, she is taking our votes. I mean, essentially, because I don't really meet people who like Tulsi and not Bernie. They like them both. So it's like, that part does frustrate me.
But I think we're a long ways away from that. We're miles away. We're almost a year away from actually voting on this stuff. So
right.
You got to look at it like in 7 weeks, she's going to be on the debate stage. And so she's on the debate stage and she's in 2-3 debates and then drops out. Where are her votes going to go? Well, if she's been speaking the same message as Bernie's going to get her votes. So
I don't
know. Did we lose each other?
Tom wants to know if Cory Booker will give his delegates to Bernie. Tom, I would love that, but I don't see that happening. Wow. Why do you ask? Cory Booker is such a twat waffle. He doesn't want like any progressive stuff, so I'm not really sure why.
I don't see Cory Booker getting a delegate.
I don't either. I mean, I was actually looking on Twitter today, and I know like this sounds kind of like superficial and stuff, but yeah, Mark, I agree. I think he'd give them to Kamala. But so I was looking on Twitter and because I wanted to know as far as polls go, as far as these polls were like Biden suddenly 30% ahead of Bernie, only, oops, they didn't ask anyone under 50 who they were voting for. Oops, right. Cool thing the internet exists, and we found that out. So anyway, so Bernie has 8.9 million followers on Twitter. The next highest is Biden with 3.5. Now,
and so there's, VP.
Huh?
And he was the vice president. So you would, by default, have a ton more because you're vice president.
But Bernie has 3 times. Mm-hmm. Like, Bernie has like 8.9. Right. So, and some of them are haters, I guarantee that. But so, I was looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, this makes total sense because, our candidate is the one that like, young people love. And so And we get our news and our information on the interwebs, whereas the older generation gets it on MSM. So MSM people who still have landlines will be the ones called, and they're going to say Biden because he's the one on TV 24/7. So
Right.
that was the point I had with posting those results. It just kind of aligns with the polls, how they're showing.
Well, you got to look at a lot of the polling. So even, you know, they did poll some people under 50, but it's, you know, if you can't show your work, like it's so few people that it never meets the threshold to show how many people in that segment were questioned. And then there's other factors, like it's not just landline. It's like even on a cell phone, a younger person is less likely to answer their goddamn cell phone to a random number. Like older people are just brought up in a more like, oh, someone's calling, I need to answer it. You know, like I don't even, you know, my friend can text me, I'm not going to text him back. So a stranger, you know, it's different the younger you get. So, you know, the polls obviously are skewed towards Biden, and you know, we all know that. But regardless of that, it's 90% Obama love and favorability. And I mean, none of it is that he's a centrist and they love a centrist. None of it is that progressive ideas are bad. It's the people that aren't tuned into this shit.
Absolutely. And then I have one more question before we go into your new parody account and we announce it. Yay! It's a goodie. So my last topic I wanted to talk to you about is these entitled celebrities who are making the statement. They have that meme that says, I promise to not insult any Democratic candidates. Will you pledge the same? Like these like total bullshit like things like where they're like, obey, you know, I promise not to say any. I mean, granted, they just trashed Bernie and his supporters the day before, but okay. So it's George Takei, Alyssa Milano. So what I mean, and they just get ratioed the fuck out of them when they do it. But what's your take on that? Like when you see those, what's your response?
I mean, it's just tribalist bullshit. Like you either criticize people that are bad or you don't. Like, are we gonna have this world where the Democratic Party just thinks you signed up, you're on our team, you're in our gang, we're Crips, you're Bloods, and that's how politics works? No, you need to criticize people within your party, and that's how you get them on the right side of issues. That's how you separate yourself. You know, this whole idea that we're going to have a whole primary where everyone just fucking hugs it out, you know, that's how you get Biden. That's why they're pushing this narrative. You know, let's not talk about records. Let's not talk about, you know, let's ignore every gaffe that Biden has on video that make him unelectable. And then let's just let Republicans run with it once he's our nominee. No, everybody needs to know all the dirt on everybody. You know, even with Bernie, it's okay that people say, you want to argue about the electability of someone saying he's a socialist. Let's have that talk. We can defend that talk. I'm not against that talk, but that's a valid thing to bring up. I mean, it's not off limits, you know, let's talk about it, you know, but this whole idea of like, if we just all just shut up, you know, we're giving the Republicans ammo, like they don't have ammo on these guys. I mean, it's silly. I hate that argument. And the people that bring it up are just weak. They're weak minds. You know, at best, they're just scared. At worst, they're playing into some stuff that at worst well, I don't know. It doesn't matter, but there's no good reason to make that argument. You know, there isn't, because we have a year to pick somebody that doesn't have baggage. So let's hide the baggage argument is bullshit.
Mm-hmm. and everything's an attack, even if it's said matter of fact. Like, you know, Bernie was on the news the other day. They specifically asked him, what are the differences between you and Biden? Bernie said he voted for NAFTA. I voted against it. He voted for the Iraq war. I voted against it. You know, he went down these, he attacked him. No, the only reason you're saying he attacked him is because you know his record is shit. And that's your only defense. You're saying it's an attack because you don't want anyone to notice that he's garbage. Why would Bernie not highlight that? Like, why would he not be like, I voted against this stuff that was extremely harmful to people?
Yeah. Well, it's silly and people see through it. I mean, I don't think that works for the establishment. I don't think, you know, for anyone over 20 or so, you grew up hearing primaries are the time to vet candidates. Like you don't unlearn that. Like that is common knowledge. It's always been mainstream thinking of people that follow politics, the people that get this, that you want your weaknesses exposed in the primary to overcome them and then be able to take that off the table somewhat. And you look like you conquered that issue. And then you come into the general election and, well, I survived. I went through that battle in my primary. I won it. So if you're Biden, you want to say, I handled my Me Too movement stuff. I handled my, you know, I got past the crime bill. You know, I explained myself and people accepted my excuse and, you know, I evolved. But now we're going to just see how he handles that stuff against Trump. It's nonsense.
Absolutely. Right on. The people are saying drum roll. I hope a lot of you guys are on Twitter because you may not be too familiar with who the new character is unless you're on Twitter. But let's hear it.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, so I wanted to go after Tom Watson. I hate him. I'm sorry, anyone that was dying for me to go after Tom Watson. But when you're a math guy and your whole argument every day on Twitter is an emotional argument, you need to get knocked down. So I'm going after Nate Silver. I'm getting real sick of his shit. Starting tomorrow, it'll be the @SillyRabbit account will be Nate's liver instead of Nate Silver. It's going to be a boozier, saltier Nate Silver.
Yes. Nate Silver is a total just douche canoe. He said that it's elitist to care about policy.
Right. And he's picking up 2016 arguments. I mean, he's just bugging the shit out of me. I can't stand him lately. I mean, the whole purposes of him having a platform is that he was this brilliant math statistics guy who got everything right back in 2012 or something. Was it Obama time? And
yeah,
maybe in 2008. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, it was 8.
Yeah, so he's gotten everything wrong. I mean, he's out there attacking, you know, anytime the math is going to go right for Bernie, he's going to complain about it. Anytime the math is, you know, the stats and the polling is good for Biden, he's going to trumpet it. But I think he's a good guy to go after. And I think seeing his saltiness evolve as the primaries go on are going to be fun. So
I think you picked a damn good one.
Yeah.
Nate's liver. It's on. It is on, Pat.
Starting tomorrow.
I still want to call you Peter.
That's fine.
I gotta get used to it. But yeah, that's gonna be amazing. And I
hope so.
I can't wait until he finds out about it.
Yeah, I hope he hates me. I mean, that's how you know you've done well. And then maybe we'll make up in a year, like with Peter Dow and I, we're like on chatting terms now. It's great.
Yeah, I don't know. He's like, whew. But I just found out, Jenna, I think she's watching. I found out something very heartbreaking. My dream is to get blocked by Hillary, Kamala, and Nancy Pelosi. Like, that's my dream. And I come at Hillary all the time, Pelosi, like I destroy them. But my friend Jenna told me that public officials, or whatever you want to say, are not allowed to block people by law.
Right. Yeah, that's supposed to be a reality. I know.
Damn it.
I know there are candidates, there are citizens that have sued to get access. Like some people have been, Trump had to unblock some people.
That's right. That's right. Oh yeah. Oh man. Damn. I was like, why isn't Hillary blocking me? Like, right. I was gonna, like, I was, yeah. I'm sure she wanted to, her or her people. Yeah, that made me sad. Do you have any closing comments you want to leave people with? Oh, aren't you going to the CA Dem?
Yeah, that's gonna be so much fun. So the CDEMs, which are people that are voted California, they're voted, but it's not on the regular ballot. It's just within the Democratic Party. They elect people they vote on issues like, who's in leadership and positions within the party and things like that. They have their California convention every year, and it's at the end of the month. And I'm going with the press pass. I'm going to be repping Real Progressives. Haven't exactly figured out how it's going to work, but got a press pass and a microphone and a video crew, and I'm going to go as Peter Douche and get some interviews from people. And there's going to be Beto's going to be there, Kamala's going to be there, Rendon's going to be there, Bernie's going to be there. So hopefully I get some good questions in for people, and they're not going to like them.
Just so you know, I never told anyone this, but it's kind of an opportune time. So one of the teammates was in California for Bernie's rally last month, and they were not really feeling her press pass. And they were like, and then they go, Real Progressives, Savage Joy. And she's like, yeah. And they're like, okay, go ahead. So if anyone gives you trouble, they might, okay, if they're Bernie supporters, they'll know who I am.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much. I always love talking to you. You guys, I have a gentleman coming on Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. He is an independent candidate in California, who's going to be running for Senate. He's a great guy. And then I have a gentleman coming, who's I'm going to be talking to, who is Palestinian. And we're going to be discussing Israel and Palestine. And there's an environmentalist gentleman who lives in Pennsylvania, not far from me, who I'm going to be speaking with. He is a lawyer who works for environmental issues. And then tomorrow I am going to a speaking event with two African-American men who were caught up in the injustice system, and now actually have jobs. One is a college professor and one actually works in legal services. So they're going to share their story about how their lives have transitioned. So I'll be at that event tomorrow night. Again, thank you so much, Nates.
Thanks, Joy. I love you. I hope all goes well for you soon.
Thanks. Bye, love you guys. Have a good night.